What is happening on the price of tickets? Premier League football tickets, what is going on with them? Manchester United fans have aligned with Manchester City fans, Everton fans and Liverpool fans on this one, because over the last couple of weekends, fans up and down the country have been uniting in protest against ticket price rises amidst the Stop Exploiting Loyalty campaign. Now, a joint statement from City, United, Everton and Liverpool fans says this: fans groups from all four clubs are joining to support the Football Supporters Association's Stop Exploiting Loyalty campaign, which highlights soaring ticket prices, the erosion of concessionary rates, and above inflation increases that are pricing out the very people who form the backbone of English football culture. So United fans have joined up. Why have they joined up? Do you have sympathy with the fans here?
I do and I don't. Because I do believe emphatically the lifeblood of football clubs are fans. But the economic reality of it is you've got 17 out of the 20 clubs in the Premier League don't make any money, lose money in the last set of finances. You've got this headline I saw in one of the papers about football's greed. Well, where's the money going? The money's going to the players, to the agents and the managers. At some point, somewhere along the line, the owners might make some money somewhere down the line. Football has been built off the back of two things. Besides the fans' unique support. In 1992, when the Premier League was built, it was bankrupt. Football stadiums were falling down. Hooliganism was rife. Attendances were dwindling. There were terrible tragedies in English football. English clubs were banned from Europe. We had all the things that we know. 30 years later, because of the broadcasters and because of benefactor money coming into football, you now have the most powerful league with the best players, because this is really just a Premier League problem. You have the best players in world football at the best football clubs with the best managers inside the best stadiums. And somewhere along the line, someone had to fund that. Then you had COVID for 18 months where the football clubs lost tens of millions of pounds because ultimately the game was shut and couldn't bankroll itself. The broadcasters wanted their money back. And now we have a situation where the fans, who by definition suggest they own the clubs, are uncomfortable with the cost implications of the very football that they are the beneficiaries of actually being able to watch. It's a balancing act. The concession argument is a difficult one, because the concession argument, don't forget that the age of retirement in this country has gone up to 67. So a lot of football clubs are moving the concessions up to 67 to meet the landscape of what this country does in the first place. A lot of people are working longer, so they have the disposable income. Then you have... Then you have the idea also, because I had a couple of conversations with a couple of Premier League club owners about this over the last couple of days.
Okay.
And so I've looked into the real reasons why, and I know what the reasons were, is that it's a harsh and brutal truth and people aren't going to like to hear it.
Well, the fans aren't liking it. That is for sure. So we've got Steve back, and Steve, for those who don't know, Steve Crompton is a spokesman for the fans group, Manchester United fans group, FC58. Steve, while Simon was talking there, again, I want to put it to you. Why have you decided to align yourselves with the Stop Exploiting Loyalty campaign?
Simple reasons is, this is not, it wasn't just a Manchester United thing. This was, all Premier League clubs. We've seen the money that comes into the Premier League. As Simon says, it's the biggest, most watched league in the world. But yet, for all the money and all the commercial side, fans are getting squeezed. Your everyday match-going fan is getting squeezed. And this, this hike that Manchester United have just put upon us, £66, which, that equates to a junior member, that equates to a 265% price increase for a match day ticket.
Right.
That doesn't sit well with me, not one bit.
Were you one of those who protested at the weekend? As I understand it, Steve, some fans gathered outside Old Trafford aiming chants at Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the Glazer family. Were you one of them?
I was there. I organised and helped organise the event along with Dave Kelly from Everton. And whilst the protest was going on, admittedly, was quite busy doing interviews with press, etc. But the chanting really would just echo the anger within the match-going fan base, and that wasn't just United fans; it was Everton fans as well.
So United last week announced for the remainder of this season, ticket prices will rise to £66 per game, with no concessions for children or pensioners. And that is what's got you in this one. Is that the final straw that's broken the camel's back as far as you're concerned?
Absolutely. I mean, the cost of living is, without getting political, the things aren't great in this country at the minute. And for a lot of people, football is, it's that release. It's that going to a game on a Saturday or a Sunday or, whatever day it falls on, and, getting away from your everyday conundrums, if you will. And to have that seemingly taken away, particularly from the older generations and the youth as well, which, the youth, the future of our football club. Football clubs talk about, wanting the atmosphere, and, let's be honest, the atmosphere is what's as appealing as the football. It's a very passionate sport over here.
Yeah.
And I can't for the life of me understand how, our Manchester United is such a bad position financially that a squeeze like this has been put on fans mid-season. And you look at the figures. They're saying, the club is saying they've sold 97% of the tickets for the remainder of this season. Now, there's 50,000 season ticket holders at Old Trafford, which then leaves 20,000 general sale tickets, approximately. That's, if there's 3% there, that is 600 tickets. It's 600 tickets. I just, the maths don't math to me.
Yeah, they're making around an extra, £16,000 a match. Steve, you probably heard Simon say a moment ago that he'd been in conversation, as you have been, right, with a couple of Premier League owners. Mm-hmm. And they tell you, look, the hard and brutal truth here is that we've had to do this.
Well, they don't tell me that it's the hard and brutal truth that they have to do this, but there is some commercial realities that people don't necessarily price into their thinking. It's interesting that Everton fans are unhappy because, given the statistics, that Everton's season ticket prices have just gone down this season. I'm not entirely sure what they're unhappy about. But you look at the argument around concessions, and there are some very brutal truths to be told about the reasons why concessions are being squeezed, certainly at the elder end of the spectrum, which is they've adjusted it to the age of the country's retirement. Also, more people are working longer in their lives, whether that's right or wrong, they are. So they've got more disposable income. And there is a brutal economic truth that people won't utter, which is that the value of an older supporter, they don't spend the money inside the stadiums on secondary spend the way that other fans will spend. That, in my view, that shouldn't be part of the equation, but we are in an economic reality of what football has become. Fans have got to remember the journey that they've been on. I know it's scant consolation, but like I said, 30 odd years ago, before the Premier League, 40 years ago, there was no football on television. 35 years ago, we had stadiums that were falling down, getting burnt down. We had hooliganism, we had racism beset the game, we had finances bust, and we had one of the football actually in decline and actually going to the point where football may not exist in this country. Now, roll forward 30 years, you've got the best, most powerful league, you've got the best players, you've got the best stadiums, and that has been driven by two things. It's been driven by the broadcasters. So you've got two resistances, Jim. Fans don't want to pay the broadcasters now because the broadcasters are charging so much money to watch football, and they can't not charge that money because they're paying so much money to get it. Football wants a return on its investment because all the money is going out the door to the players and the agents. The argument will be, don't pay them. Okay, so what do you do then when you've got outliers in other markets like the Saudis that want to buy all the best players, want to pay all the best wages? You've got to be competitive in your demands. When you've got big football clubs that can pay the wages, other football clubs have to match it. So you can't control the economy of where the money goes. So then you bring in PSR. So you bring in PSR and you stymie the game, and all of a sudden you start to lose the competitivity, and it goes round and round and round and round.
Simon, I mean, when it comes to it,
well,
Steve, I'm coming back to you. Is it not a case here of enough's enough? On Manchester United, football finance expert Kieran Maguire, who you rate highly, as do I, and he's on the show on a regular basis. Ineos, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's Ineos, he says, know that with such a big varied fan base, they can sell to a different kind of market. What they're trying to do is nudge up on many different revenue streams. They know the easiest people to target are those with the quietest voices, like the disabled, kids and the elderly. And he says, in terms of the PR look, Kieran says, it's appalling.
Well, first of all, I don't think that's their thought process. It might be the assumption that Kieran draws from it, but I don't think that's their thought process. I don't think Jim Ratcliffe is sitting in a room saying, let's pick on disabled fans and elderly fans. I think it's the byproduct of they look at the economy of what's going on and they see this as an opportunity. Now, whether that's right or wrong is a different discussion. But when we talk about what should be happening and what is happening, we are in a supply and demand world. I know it's a tragedy and it may sound like I'm being commercially hard-faced, but these football stadiums, first of all, it isn't 20% because you have to give a 10% allocation. So when you talk about how many football fans Man United get in the Great Stadium, 50,000 season ticket holders, you then have to provide 10% allocation for the away support. So it's 57,000, so only 13,000 fans, of which 20% might be concessions. So it's even less. So there must be a reason.
So what's your message to the fans here? Suck it up.
Well, my message, I don't have a message to the fans. I'm giving you, it's not my job to give a message to the fan. I'm giving you the commercial realities of why these decisions are being made. When people categorise it, when the media want to categorise it as greed, who's greedy?
Do you think it's greed, Steve?
Yes. You know, that.
But who's being greedy? You've just been given a statistic, Steve, that 17 out of the 20 football clubs are losing money. Who's being greedy? The players? The agents? The managers? So where's the greed coming into this?
Looking at it from a match-going fan's point of view, Simon, we just touched on the actual figure that they potentially be looking at as an extra, if you will, which was what, 16, 17, 18,000 pounds. And then you compare that to players' wages, and you know it's crazy. And you know the ironic part is that the game didn't actually sell out on Sunday, so the extra tickets that they were selling at 66 quid didn't actually sell out. There was about 2,000 tickets still available.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.